I've always been quiet. Not shy, exactly, just invisible. I learned early on that staying under the radar spared me confrontation, spared me disappointment. In my office at Carlisle Tech, I watched, I listened, and I waited. My loyalty, my patience, my quiet persistence, I believed someday, someone would notice. "Good morning, Alex," Emily said as I passed her desk. Her voice was soft, warm, casual, like sunlight hitting cold pavement. She smiled, but she never lingered. "Morning," I mumbled. I wanted to say more, to tell her I'd stayed late last night rewriting the presentation for next week, but I didn't. I couldn't. Words got stuck in my throat when it came to people like her. "Alex," Daniel's voice cut across the office. That smooth, self-assured tone of his. "You've got those reports ready?" He leaned against my cubicle, eyes sharp. I handed over the papers, my fingers brushing his. He glanced at them, nodded, and walked away, already moving on to someone he considered more important. I stared after him, a pang of frustration tightening in my chest. Mark was different. Mark was my friend, or at least, he'd convinced me he was. "Hey man, don't take it personally," he said, leaning on my cubicle wall. He's Daniel. You know how he is." "I know," I said. My voice barely carried over the hum of printers and typing keyboards. I wanted to tell Mark that I was tired of knowing, tired of being invisible, but I swallowed it. Always swallowed it. Meetings were the worst. I sat at the conference table, my hands folded, listening to ideas I'd drafted in the middle of the night being spoken aloud by someone else. "Alex, could you summarize your section?" Daniel asked once, his eyes flicking past me like I wasn't there. I think we should focus on client engagement," I said cautiously. My heart raced. My voice sounded smaller than I felt. "That's a good start," he said. But I was thinking we could lead with a more dynamic strategy. He leaned back in his chair, smirking, and turned to the group. "I think a fresh angle on social integration will really wow the clients." I bit my lip. That fresh angle was mine. I'd stayed up until 2 in the morning figuring it out. I let it slide. Again. After the meeting, Emily caught up to me in the hallway. "Alex, don't let it get to you," she whispered. Her hand brushed mine. I felt a spark I ignored, like always. "You have great ideas. People will see it, eventually." "Yeah," I said, nodding, forcing a smile. "Eventually." Her smile lingered a second longer before she moved on, leaving me staring at her retreating back. Mark came up behind me, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "Just tired, I guess." "Don't let Daniel get to you. He's all smoke and mirrors." "I know. But did I?" Every day, I felt smaller, less significant. I wanted approval, more than respect. I wanted someone to see the work I did, the effort I poured into projects no one thanked me for. Instead, I was the background, the unnoticed support, the guy who made others look good. Emily, Daniel, Mark, they all had their roles. I had mine, invisible. I spent lunch in the break room, staring at my sandwich, pretending to read a report on my tablet. I wanted to tell someone, anyone, how much I contributed, how much I noticed things, how carefully I drafted emails, revised spreadsheets, proofed documents no one else bothered with. But the words never came. "You're really quiet today," Emily said as she walked in. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, nodding. "Just thinking." She smiled, nodded, and sat across from me. We ate in silence. I wanted to tell her I loved her. I wanted to tell her I'd been saving my best for her. Instead, I just watched her stir her coffee, her eyes distant, and I pretended not to notice the ache in my chest. Back at my desk, Daniel appeared, holding a printed copy of my latest report. "This looks good, Alex. I'll present it in the meeting tomorrow." That's mine," I said, my stomach dropping. "I know. I'll give you credit, of course," he said smoothly, like he had no idea how much I'd stayed up working on it. "But I have a way of presenting things. You know how it is." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, of course." Mark wandered by. "You okay, man?" "I'm fine." They left. And I sat there, fists clenched under the desk, staring at my screen. Invisible. Again. Even so, I kept trying. I kept putting myself out there, hoping someone, anyone, would finally see me. And I thought, maybe tomorrow, I'd get my chance. That evening, I stayed late, revising a proposal Daniel would present the next day. I poured my ideas into it, adjusting graphs, smoothing text, reworking bullet points. Hours passed. The office emptied. The hum of computers and the ticking clock became my companions. "Still here?" Emily's voice startled me. She leaned against the doorway. "It's late. I just wanted to make sure this proposal was perfect," I said. "You always do the work no one notices," she said softly. "You deserve to be seen." Thanks," I said, my voice cracking slightly. I hope tomorrow's meeting goes well." "You'll do fine," she said. Then she smiled and left. I stared at the screen, feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe tomorrow, things would change. Maybe finally, Daniel and the others would see me. Mark came in before I left. "Hey, I saved you a slice of pizza," he said, tossing it onto my desk. "Don't let the bastards get you down. You've got talent, man. They'll notice. Eventually." "I hope so," I said quietly, taking a bite, feeling both comforted and frustrated. As I packed my bag, I glanced around the empty office. The hum of fluorescent lights, the faint scent of coffee, the empty chairs, it all felt like a stage I'd been forced to watch from the wings. But tomorrow, I thought, maybe I'd finally get to step into the spotlight. I walked home that night thinking of Emily's smile, Mark's encouragement, and the silent hours I spent building my work. I believed, no, I knew, that someone would recognize me for the first time. Maybe tomorrow, Daniel would hand me the credit I deserved. Maybe tomorrow, I'd finally be the man someone noticed. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange mix of hope and fear. I was about to find out if all my patience, all my quiet suffering, would finally pay off, or if being invisible was the only role I'd ever play. Tomorrow, I would be seen. And I told myself, one last time, I was ready. I thought tomorrow would finally be the day. I thought all my patience, all the late nights, all the quiet hours spent perfecting every report, every proposal, would pay off. I thought Daniel would finally see me. The morning started normal enough. Emily smiled at me as I walked in. "Morning, Alex," she said. That little tilt of her head, that casual warmth, I almost let myself hope. "Morning," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. Mark was at his desk, typing away. "You ready for the big meeting?" he asked, glancing at me. "I think so," I said. I revised the proposal last night. It should be perfect." "Good man," he said, smiling. I nodded, feeling the smallest spark of confidence. Then Daniel appeared, striding down the hallway like he owned the building. He stopped at my desk, holding the printed proposal I had labored over for hours. "Alex," he said smoothly, "I'm going to present this today." I blinked. I wrote this. You're going to present it as your own? He leaned on my desk, casual, charming. Relax. I'll mention you in passing. Everyone likes to see teamwork, right? Mark appeared behind me, shifting uncomfortably. Daniel, it's Alex's work. Maybe he should at least. Mark, Daniel said, cutting him off, voice sharp, don't undermine me in front of the team. We want a strong impression. I've got this. I felt my stomach drop. My heart raced. But Daniel already turned away. Don't worry. You'll get credit, in your own way. I didn't respond. I sat there, hands clenched on the desk, staring at the paper. My words felt useless, swallowed before they even left my throat. The meeting room was filled with the usual crowd, executives, managers, and a few new faces I didn't know. Daniel opened the presentation, smiling broadly. Today, we're unveiling a new strategy for client engagement, he said. It's a fresh approach, designed to increase retention and satisfaction. He clicked the slides. Every idea, every diagram, every line of text was mine. My work. My late nights. My effort. I could feel the heat in my chest, the burn of humiliation. So, Alex, care to explain the details? Someone asked, looking at me. I froze. All my preparation, all my calculations, all my passion, it seemed to vanish in an instant. Daniel jumped in immediately. Actually, I'll take this one, he said smoothly. I think it's easier if I walk everyone through the framework. I sat there, silent, as my ideas were spoken aloud by him, nodded at, praised, and admired. The executives murmured in agreement, impressed by the innovation. I could hardly breathe. Afterward, everyone clapped. Daniel basked in it, charming as always. He even winked at Mark, who smiled awkwardly, avoiding my eyes. Emily looked at me briefly, a flicker of concern in her expression, then moved on. I excused myself and went to the empty hallway. I felt nauseous, dizzy with disbelief. I had trusted them. I had hoped. And now? Mark caught up to me. Alex, don't, I said. My voice cracked. Don't say anything. He looked guilty. Daniel said it would look better if he presented it. He didn't mean to. Didn't mean to? I shouted, the sound startling me. It's my work, Mark. I wrote it. I stayed up all night perfecting it. And now he's getting applause for it. Mark's shoulders slumped. I know. I didn't want to make things worse. You didn't stop it. I snapped. You could have said something. You could have defended me. But you didn't. You let it happen. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I turned away, my hands shaking. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't look at anyone. I went back to my desk and stared at the screen, the cursor blinking mockingly. I typed something, deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but no words came. Later, I found Emily near the coffee machine. Alex, she said softly. Are you okay? I'm fine, I lied. Just tired, I guess. Her eyes searched mine, hesitant. I know you worked hard on that proposal. I saw how much effort you put in. I swallowed. Thanks. It wasn't enough. Never enough. By the afternoon, I had composed myself, or at least tried. Daniel passed my desk, grinning. You did a great job, Alex, he said, slapping me on the shoulder. Keep it up. I wanted to punch him. Instead, I forced a smile. Thanks, I muttered. Mark didn't speak to me again all day. I could feel the distance between us, a chasm I hadn't noticed before. The next morning, I was called into HR. Alex, we need to discuss your conduct, said the manager, her tone bland, professional. I froze. Conduct? I echoed. Yes. There have been concerns raised about your interactions with team members, she said. Specifically, your attitude toward Daniel. I blinked. My attitude? I wanted to laugh, scream, cry, all at once. I did my job. I've never had an issue with anyone. She handed me a letter. We'll need you to sign this. Your employment will be terminated, effective immediately. I couldn't breathe. The world spun. Terminated? For what? Policy violation, she said, as though it explained everything. Please gather your belongings. I left my desk in a daze, every step heavy. My computer, my files, my notes, all that proof of my effort, would sit there for someone else to claim. Daniel. Emily approached me as I packed my things. Alex, she said softly. I wish I could have done something. It's too late, I said. My voice was calm, but my hands trembled. It's always too late. Mark appeared, silent. I looked at him. He looked away. No words. Nothing. I walked out of Carlisle Tech carrying nothing but my bag, my pride shattered, my spirit heavy. Every step echoed betrayal. Every glance back at the office building was a knife twisting in my chest. I remembered all the nights I stayed late, all the projects I perfected, all the times I swallowed my voice to keep peace. And now, it counted for nothing. I wanted to scream at Daniel, to accuse him, to demand justice. But the words stuck in my throat, lodged with all the words I had swallowed before. I wanted to beg Mark for loyalty, for honesty, for anything, but I knew it was gone. The next morning, I didn't go to the office. I stayed in my apartment, staring at the walls, listening to the city hum outside my window. I felt smaller than I ever had, like every accomplishment, every late night, every careful word, had vanished into nothing. My phone buzzed. Mark. I ignored it. I couldn't face him. Not today. A knock at the door made me jump. Alex? My sister, Sarah, stepped in before I could respond. I heard what happened. I came as soon as I could. I'm fine, I said automatically, but she didn't believe me. She never did. Are you? She pressed, crossing her arms. Because last I checked, you're sitting on the couch staring at nothing. That's not fine. I didn't expect, I trailed off, trying to find words. But there weren't any. How do you explain betrayal? How do you explain that someone you trusted, someone you loved, could step in and erase your effort with a smile? Sarah sat next to me. Tell me what happened, she said. I exhaled slowly. It was the proposal. I stayed up all night perfecting it. Every detail, every slide, mine. Daniel presented it today like it was his. Everyone applauded him. Mark didn't say anything. Emily, she noticed, but didn't stop it. Sarah frowned. That's awful. Alex, you need to see that it's not your fault. I shook my head. It is my fault. I should have spoken up. I should have been noticed before this happened. She reached over, gripping my hand. You didn't fail. You were invisible, yes, but that doesn't make your work any less real. Don't blame yourself for someone else's selfishness. I swallowed, feeling the tightness in my chest. I wanted approval. More than respect. I wanted them to see me as I am. And did they? She asked softly. I didn't answer. Later, I found myself scrolling through my old emails, old reports, old drafts. All of it. The proof of my effort, my dedication, my skill. And yet, none of it mattered to the people I trusted. There was a knock again. This time, it was Mr. Hale, a quiet investor I'd helped anonymously months ago. Alex? His voice was calm, measured. Can we talk? I let him in. He didn't smile, didn't offer comfort. I heard about the situation, he said. You're capable. You've been underestimated, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. I don't know, I admitted, voice low. I've been invisible for so long. Maybe it's too late for me. It's never too late, he said firmly. You have skills, insight, and drive. You just need the right opportunity. You don't have to stay invisible. I looked at him, a spark igniting inside me. The right opportunity. With Daniel. Mark. Emily, gone? They'll fade. You'll rise, he said. But it's your choice. You can stay bitter and broken, or you can take control. I felt my hands tremble. Control. That was a word I hadn't felt in a long time. And if I take control, how do I know it'll work? Because you're capable of more than you give yourself credit for, he said. I've seen it. Don't waste your time being invisible when you have a voice. I nodded slowly, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. I don't know where to start. Start small, he advised. Rebuild. Be deliberate. They'll never see it coming. After he left, I sat in silence, letting his words sink in. Rebuild. Be deliberate. Never seen coming. I thought about Daniel, smirking as the executives clapped for work I'd done. I thought about Mark, silent, guilty. I thought about Emily, gentle, unaware. And then I thought about me. I didn't want to cry anymore. Not yet. Not if there was a chance to rise from this. Later, Sarah called again. Have you eaten? She asked. I'll grab something, I muttered. You need to get out of this apartment, Alex. Let the world see you. Don't let this defeat you. I hung up, pacing the small living room. I thought about my skills, my ideas, all the hours I'd spent unnoticed. If Daniel thought he had one, he had no idea what was coming. The phone buzzed again. This time, Mark. Alex, please. I know I messed up. Can we talk? I stared at the screen. For a moment, I almost ignored him. Then I typed back, not now. Not now. But someday, he would understand. Not today. Today, I had to focus on myself. I opened my laptop and began reviewing my old reports, my drafts, my strategies. Each document reminded me that I was capable. That I wasn't invisible to myself. That my work mattered, even if no one else noticed. Emily's smile flashed in my mind. I had loved her quietly, faithfully, from the shadows. I still did, though now it felt heavier, harder. Her kindness had never been enough to shield me from reality. And maybe that was the lesson. People don't always notice. People don't always care. But I could notice myself. I could care for myself. By evening, I was making plans. Small steps. Rebuilding connections, honing my skills, finding opportunities one could control. Daniel had underestimated me. Mark had failed me. Emily, well, she had never really seen me. But none of that mattered now. I called Sarah. I'm ready to try, I said. That's my brother, she said, smiling over the line. Start small. Take it one step at a time. You're stronger than you think. I hope so, I said. I can't keep being invisible forever. You won't, she said. Just don't rush it. Let yourself grow. Let them see you when you're ready. I hung up, feeling the weight in my chest shift slightly. I was still hurt, still betrayed, but something else had begun to grow, determination. A plan. A voice. I spent the night drafting emails, making notes, imagining strategies. Ideas I'd never had the chance to implement. I thought about how I could rise quietly, methodically, without anyone suspecting. The betrayal had broken me. But it had also taught me something crucial. Silence can be a weapon if you wield it wisely. Patience can become power if you use it. And most importantly, being invisible didn't mean being powerless. I sat back in my chair, staring at the blinking cursor on the screen, and whispered to myself, they think they've won. They have no idea what I'm about to do. For the first time since the meeting, I felt alive. Not in a reckless, hopeful way, but in a deliberate, dangerous way. I was at rock bottom. But rock bottom has a voice. And I was ready to speak. I woke up the next morning with a quiet resolve. The betrayal still stung, but the pain had been sharpened into focus. I wasn't going to disappear anymore. I wasn't going to be the man no one noticed. The phone rang. Mr. Hale. Alex, he said, voice calm. I've got an opportunity for you. Something you can control completely. It's not small, it could change everything. I'm listening, I said cautiously. I need someone like you, he explained. Someone intelligent, meticulous, underestimated. Someone who knows the inner workings of corporate operations. I've been building a team. I want you to help me quietly lead it. Your ideas, your strategy, it could be yours. I hesitated. Quietly? Yes, he said. You don't need to be visible yet. That comes later. But if you do this, if you play it right, you'll have power they never thought you'd hold. I don't know, I admitted. I've never led anything. I've been invisible my whole life. You've led in the shadows, he said firmly. That's more valuable than you realize. And this time, no one will steal your work. I swallowed, the spark of possibility igniting. When do I start? Tomorrow. Are you in? I'm in, I said. I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Finally, a choice. Finally, a path I could control. Not a vague hope, not whispers of recognition, but real, deliberate control. Later that day, Sarah stopped by. You look different, she said, smiling softly. More focused. I have to do something, I admitted. I can't stay broken. I can't stay small. Good, she said. You've always had the talent. You just let people define your worth before. Not anymore. I nodded, feeling a rush of gratitude and determination. I need to think strategically. Plan my moves carefully. Then do it, she said. And remember, Alex, control comes from patience, not anger. I spent the afternoon reviewing everything I'd done in the past months. Every report, every proposal, every strategy I'd contributed without credit. I made lists. I drafted potential moves. I imagined scenarios where I had influence, where I was seen, not for applause, but for power. That's when I met Lucas and Nina. Lucas was the lawyer Mr. Hale had recommended. Alex, I've read through your files, he said, tone precise. You're organized, methodical, and underestimated. That's perfect. Thank you, I said. I've never had anyone appreciate my work before. You will now, Lucas said firmly. But you need to understand, patience is key. You can't rush. You need strategy. Nina, the strategist, smiled calmly. And discretion. Timing. Influence. Your strength is being invisible. Use it. I'm not used to being treated this way, I admitted. Being seen. Being trusted. Then it's time you were, she said. Over the next few hours, we discussed plans. Ideas I'd never thought could come to life started forming. Small moves, calculated risks. Shaping decisions before others even realized they were being influenced. I felt alive. The next morning, I visited Daniel's office under the guise of needing clarification on a project. Morning, Daniel, I said, forcing casualness. He looked up, startled. Alex. I thought you were somewhere else. I wanted to ask about a minor detail in your client report, I said. Just curious about your approach. He nodded, clearly uncomfortable. Sure, what is it? I listened carefully, nodding, asking questions that seemed innocent but subtly probed his plans. He explained, thinking I was just curious, and I absorbed every detail. Every weak point, every overconfidence, every gap he didn't notice. After he left, I whispered to myself, this time. I'm the one paying attention. I met with Lucas and Nina later that day. Daniel has vulnerabilities, I said. Overconfidence. Reliance on others' praise. He doesn't see anyone coming. Perfect, Nina said. We'll use that. I want to start small, I said. Move strategically. Influence decisions quietly. Build leverage. They'll never know until it's too late. Exactly, Lucas said. This isn't revenge yet. This is positioning. This is power. I felt a thrill I hadn't felt in months. Not the hollow excitement of hope that had been crushed. This was deliberate. This was control. That evening, I received a text from Mark. Alex, can we talk? I stared at the screen. My hands trembled. I wanted to respond, to tell him everything, to scream at him. But I typed instead, not yet. I knew when the time came, Mark would have to face what he did. But for now, I had to focus. Emily called next. Alex, I wanted to apologize. I should have done more. I didn't see what was happening. I inhaled deeply. It's too late for apologies, I said quietly. I'm not invisible anymore. But this isn't about you. It's about me now. Her voice caught. I understand. I hope you find what you need. Me too, I said. By the night, I was alone in my apartment, drafting strategies, imagining scenarios. Every plan, every step, every move was deliberate. I wasn't seeking applause. I wasn't seeking recognition. I was claiming control. Daniel, Mark, Emily, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was me. My mind. My patience. My power. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I whispered to myself, I will rise. They will see me. Not as a shadow. Not as someone to overlook. They'll see what happens when you ignore a man with nothing left to lose. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. The choice had been made. I had chosen not to be invisible. I had chosen to stop being small. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the world belonged to me, not because they would see me, but because I had decided I would take my place, whether they noticed or not. Tomorrow, I would begin. The first move. The first step in a plan that would change everything. And when they looked back, they would see a man who had been silent for too long, a man who had been underestimated, a man they should never have ignored. I smiled faintly, a dangerous, quiet smile. They'll never know it was coming. Months passed, and I watched quietly from the sidelines as my plans began to take shape. I wasn't visible, not yet, but I was influential. Every decision, every partnership, every little move I made through Lucas and Nina slowly shifted the balance of power. I walked into a cafe to meet Lucas and Nina. Daniel's company is struggling, Lucas said, sliding a folder across the table. They're missing deals, losing clients. Every move you suggested is quietly taking effect. I flipped through the papers, scanning graphs and emails. It's subtle. Perfect. They don't even realize I'm behind it. Exactly, Nina said. You're invisible, and that's your advantage. Let them flounder while you stay calm. I never thought I'd feel this satisfied quietly, I admitted. It's strange. Watching them fail without saying a word. Lucas leaned back. It's not cruelty. It's justice. Karma. And it's all earned. I nodded. That night, I received a text from Emily. Alex. I heard about your success. I didn't know you were capable of this. I stared at the screen, feeling something stir inside me, warm, sharp, satisfying. I typed carefully, I've always been capable. You just didn't see me. No response. I didn't need one. The next week, I was asked to attend a small investors meeting under Mr. Hale's guidance. I walked into the room and realized the power I now held. Every suggestion I made, every question I asked, carried weight. I felt the shift. People leaned in when I spoke, listened when I suggested alternatives, nodded when I hinted at strategies they hadn't considered. After the meeting, Mr. Hale pulled me aside. Alex, they trust you. They're listening. You've earned this. I still feel invisible, I admitted. You won't, soon, he said. Patience. Timing. Power is silent until it strikes. A week later, I returned to Daniel's company for a casual visit under the guise of a friendly chat. I walked in and noticed the tension immediately. Daniel's face tightened when he saw me. Mark tried to look normal, but his eyes betrayed worry. Alex, Daniel said, voice clipped. It's good to see you. Good to see you too, I said, smiling faintly. I thought I'd drop by, see how things are going. Things are fine, Daniel said, forcing casualness. Busy, but fine. I nodded. I've heard a few of your clients are reconsidering contracts. Is that true? His face tightened. Some minor issues. Nothing serious. Minor issues can grow, I said quietly. Especially if a competitor is ready to take advantage. Daniel shifted uneasily. Mark cleared his throat. We're aware, Alex. We're handling it. I smiled, just enough to seem casual. Good. I wouldn't want anyone to be caught off guard. Emily appeared in the hallway as I left, her eyes wide. Alex, you're different, she said. I've learned, I said softly. Patience and observation go a long way. Her lips pressed together, unspoken apology in her expression. I nodded, acknowledging it without a word. Later, Lucas and Nina met me for dinner. You're already changing the room, Nina said. They feel it. Even Daniel senses it. It's intoxicating, I admitted. I used to crave recognition. Now I want control. Power. Subtle, quiet, undeniable. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Be careful, Alex. Don't let it consume you. You're growing, but you can't lose yourself in this. I won't, I said. I've seen what happens when I stay small. Never again. That evening, I received an unexpected call from Mark. Alex. I don't know what to say. Things are changing too fast. I need advice. I smiled faintly, the satisfaction sweet. You need to take responsibility for your own mistakes, Mark. Learn from this. I'm not here to fix what you broke. I understand, he said quietly. That's good, I said, calm. It's time you start thinking for yourself. After the call, I sat back, staring at the city lights outside my window. Daniel, Mark, Emily, they all still thought they held power over me, that I was the same invisible man they ignored. But they didn't realize I had learned to wield silence, patience, and observation like weapons. I remembered Emily's smile that first day I walked into the office, how I had longed for recognition. How I had let Daniel step on me, how I had let Mark stay silent, how I had believed being invisible meant being powerless. Now, invisibility was my strength. They couldn't anticipate me. They couldn't manipulate me. I was calm, strategic, deliberate. Every move I made had purpose. Every word I spoke carried weight, even when it seemed casual. The next day, I visited a conference where Daniel was presenting. I stayed in the back, observing. He smiled, waved, joked. I watched as small cracks appeared, hesitations, missed cues, distracted glances. The clients he was counting on were no longer certain. I had subtly shifted perceptions, strategically undermined confidence without ever stepping into the spotlight. Afterward, I ran into Emily in the lobby. Alex, she said, hesitant. I don't even know how to describe this. Power, I said simply. Quiet, patient, deliberate power. She looked at me, searching my face. You've changed. I had to, I said. They ignored me for too long. Now, I'm in control. Not for them, but for me. She nodded slowly, respect and regret in her eyes. I didn't need her approval anymore. I didn't need anyone's. Later, I met with Lucas and Nina. They're reacting exactly as we anticipated, Nina said. Daniel's confidence is faltering. Mark's scrambling. You've shifted the balance without touching a single contract directly. I smiled faintly. That's the point. Subtlety. Observation. Control. Lucas leaned back. You're becoming dangerous, Alex. But in a good way. In a deliberate way. I've always been underestimated, I said. They forgot I was paying attention. And that's when I realized this was just the beginning. The small victories, the subtle shifts, the quiet influence, it all felt intoxicating. Not because I was winning against them, but because I had finally discovered what it felt like to have agency, to move in the shadows, to act with purpose. I watched them from the sidelines, invisible yet omnipresent. Daniel, Mark, even Emily, they moved through their routines as though nothing had changed. But I knew better. Subtle shifts were happening. Little things that felt like whispers of justice, hints of the balance tipping. I was in a cafe with Lucas and Nina, reviewing the latest client feedback. Daniel's team is making mistakes, Lucas said, eyes scanning a spreadsheet. Small, but noticeable. You've planted the seeds. I leaned back, a quiet satisfaction settling in my chest. They think it's coincidence. That I'm still invisible. Exactly, Nina said. Keep it subtle. Watch how frustration grows. Let them unravel quietly. I sipped my coffee, letting the warmth calm me. I used to want recognition. Now I want something better, control. Influence. Power they can't touch. Lucas nodded. And you have it. Quietly, invisibly. That's the beauty of this. Karma is working. You don't need to lift a hand. I smiled faintly. They deserve it. They've ignored me, stolen my work, looked past me. Now, they'll feel what it's like. Later that week, I returned to Daniel's office under the guise of a casual meeting. He looked tense. The first thing I noticed was his hands shaking slightly as he shuffled papers. Mark hovered behind him, glancing at me nervously. Alex, Daniel said, forcing a smile. What brings you here? I wanted to discuss client engagement, I said, calm. I heard some contracts might be at risk. Thought I could offer insight. He blinked, uneasy. We're aware. I think everything is under control. Are you sure? I asked casually. I've seen some trends that might concern you. Daniel hesitated. Well, perhaps. But we're managing it. I nodded slowly. Good. Just thought you'd want to be aware before issues escalate. Mark coughed, awkwardly. Yeah, thanks, Alex. I smiled, almost imperceptibly. Of course. I'd hate for anyone to be caught off guard. That night, I called Sarah. They're already reacting, I said. Daniel's panicking. Mark's uneasy. Everything is unfolding exactly as we planned. That's good, she said softly. But remember, don't let this consume you. Karma works best when it's controlled. I know, I said. I'm still me. Just stronger. Emily's text came next. Alex. I see what you're doing. I never realized how capable you were. I stared at it, a quiet thrill running through me. I typed, I've always been capable. You just didn't see me. No reply. I didn't expect one. I didn't need one. The following day, I attended a small industry event. Daniel was there, presenting to potential clients. I stayed in the back, observing, letting my strategy unfold quietly. His overconfidence betrayed him. He overlooked details, repeated missteps I had subtly orchestrated through emails, hints, and small interventions. One client whispered to another, eyebrows raised. Another jotted notes and asked questions Daniel struggled to answer. The room's energy shifted. I felt the satisfaction of seeing them crumble silently, one detail at a time. Afterward, Emily approached me, hesitant. "Alex, it's impressive. But, are you sure this is the way?" I looked at her calmly. "This is how the world works, Emily. People don't notice effort until it's convenient. I'm just making them see the consequences." Her lips pressed together, conflicted. I wish I'd recognized you sooner." "Then don't waste words on what-ifs," I said softly. "It's about action, not apologies." Mark appeared, lingering near the exit. "Alex. I'm sorry. I should've." "Not now," I said, voice firm but controlled. "Actions speak louder than words. You'll learn that soon enough." He nodded silently, guilt heavy in his expression. That evening, I met with Lucas and Nina again. "The client feedback?" I asked. "Exactly as planned," Nina said. "Daniel's decisions are unraveling. He can't anticipate your moves. Every mistake looks like incompetence, not sabotage." Lucas leaned forward. "You're not seeking revenge. You're just letting natural consequences play out. And it's beautiful in its own way." I nodded. "It feels satisfying. But controlled. I want them to understand what they lost, not just now, but eventually." "Patience," Nina said. "Every step you take strengthens your position. They'll never see it coming until it's too late." I leaned back, hands folded, letting the warmth of quiet triumph fill me. I was still me, the quiet, observant man, but now, I had power. Influence. Control. Karma was no longer abstract. It was deliberate. A few days later, I received an email from a major client Daniel had been courting. Their tone was cautious, questions pointed. Daniel had responded defensively, fumbling answers I had anticipated and subtly guided. The missteps were mine without touching a keyboard myself. I smiled faintly. "Exactly as planned," I whispered. Emily called me that night. "Alex. I can't stop thinking about you," she said, voice soft. "You've changed everything. I admire you." "I've always had it in me," I said calmly. "You just didn't see it." "I see it now," she said, a faint tremor in her voice. "I'm glad," I said. "But this isn't about being seen. It's about being in control. That's the only thing that matters now." Later, Mark appeared at my door. He looked nervous, hesitant. "Alex. I need your advice. Things are unraveling faster than I expected. I don't know what to do." I studied him quietly. "You need to own your mistakes, Mark. Learn from this. Don't lean on me. Don't try to manipulate outcomes. You have to face the consequences yourself." He swallowed, nodding slowly. I understand. Thank you." After he left, I leaned back in my chair, staring at the city skyline. Daniel, Mark, Emily, they were all reacting to shifts I had orchestrated quietly, invisibly. And they had no idea it was me. No idea that every subtle move, every quiet observation, every patient intervention had been deliberate. I remembered the day I stayed late, perfecting that proposal. The countless times I had swallowed my pride, my voice, my ideas. And now, everything had changed. The betrayal that had broken me had also given me clarity. Patience, observation, and deliberate action were stronger than emotion, stronger than shouting, stronger than any apology. Karma didn't need my anger, it only needed my attention. I whispered to myself, smiling faintly, a dangerous calm in my tone. They thought ignoring me meant nothing. But nothing is powerful when used correctly. The power of silence is underestimated. I learned that months ago, when my voice was ignored and my ideas were stolen. Now, I wield silence like a weapon. I don't need to shout, to argue, to defend myself. I simply observe, act deliberately, and let consequences speak. I walked into Daniel's office that morning under the guise of a casual visit. He looked up, startled, and for a moment, I enjoyed the tension in the air. "Alex," he said, forcing a smile. "I wasn't expecting you today." "Just checking in," I said lightly. "Thought I'd see how things are progressing." He nodded, glancing at Mark, who shuffled papers nervously. "Everything's fine. We're handling it." I leaned against the doorframe. "That's good to hear." I noticed a few minor discrepancies in the reports. "Nothing serious, I hope?" Daniel's fingers twitched slightly on the desk. "Well, maybe a few minor errors. But we're addressing them." I smiled faintly, saying nothing more. Silence is powerful. It forces people to fill the gaps themselves. Daniel's face tightened as he explained, trying to convince me, and more importantly, himself, that he was still in control. Mark shifted uncomfortably. Yes, we're working on solutions." I nodded, eyes calm. "Good. I just wanted to make sure everything is accounted for." I left before Daniel could say more. No confrontation. No lecture. Just quiet observation. And already, I could feel the shift. Daniel's confidence wavered subtly. Mark's hesitation grew. Emily would notice soon enough. Later that day, I met with Lucas and Nina at a quiet cafe. "Silence is doing its work," Nina said. "They're panicking internally, and you haven't even intervened yet." I sipped my coffee. I don't need to. They're unraveling themselves. Every misstep, every mistake. I don't have to orchestrate it directly. Just guide them subtly. Let them believe it's their own downfall. Lucas nodded. That's the power of observation. You're turning their weaknesses into inevitabilities without lifting a finger. "I used to crave recognition," I said quietly. "I used to want them to see me. Now, I want something better. Quiet control. Invisible influence. Power they can't anticipate." Nina smiled faintly. "And you have it. Karma doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be deliberate." That evening, I called Emily. "Alex. I feel like I'm watching a different person," she said softly. "You're calm. Deliberate. I'm impressed, but also afraid." "Fear isn't necessary," I said carefully. "I've learned that observation is more powerful than confrontation. Patience is more effective than anger. And silence is stronger than words." I understand," she said quietly. "Good," I said. "But remember, this isn't about anyone else. It's about me. My decisions. My control." She hesitated. "I see that. And I respect it. I just wish I had noticed sooner." "I've noticed," I said softly. "Too late for regrets. But that's fine. Everything is happening as it should. The next day, I visited Daniel's office again, this time under the pretext of reviewing a joint project. He tried to appear confident, but subtle cracks were visible. He mispronounced names, overlooked details, repeated instructions unnecessarily. Mark's nervous glances confirmed it. The room's energy had shifted. "Alex," Daniel said, voice forced, "thank you for joining. I value your insight." I nodded. "Of course. I just want to ensure the project meets the highest standards." I asked a few questions, carefully phrased, forcing him to explain details he had forgotten or mismanaged. I said nothing beyond the questions themselves, letting the silence do the work. Daniel stammered, faltered, and corrected himself repeatedly. Mark tried to help but only highlighted more errors. I left after 20 minutes, letting the tension linger like smoke in the room. The seed of doubt had been planted. That night, I met with Lucas and Nina. "Daniel's unraveling faster than expected," Lucas said. "Every subtle intervention, every question you've asked, he's reacting exactly as we predicted." Nina nodded. "Patience. Silence. Observation. That's your weapon. Let them dig their own holes." I leaned back, feeling the thrill of control. I used to think being invisible was weakness. Now, it's power. They're blind to me, but every move I make shapes their world. A week later, I received a text from Mark. "Alex. I don't know how to handle this. Everything is falling apart. Can you help?" I stared at it for a long moment, hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. Then I typed, "You need to fix your own mistakes. I'm not here to rescue you." Mark responded with a long pause, then, "I understand." "Good. Let him learn. Let Daniel feel the weight of his own arrogance. Let Emily witness the consequences of ignoring me." All of it was unfolding naturally, inevitably. Later that day, Emily called. "Alex, the clients, they're questioning Daniel's team. Do you know anything about that?" I smiled faintly. "I'm not involved. I just observe. Sometimes watching is enough." "You're terrifying," she said softly. "And effective," I said calmly. By the following week, Daniel's confidence had eroded further. I observed him during meetings, noting every flinch, every hesitation, every sign of insecurity. I said nothing. I only asked questions, lightly, casually, letting silence guide the answers, revealing incompetence without confrontation. Mark appeared flustered in the hallway one afternoon. "Alex. Daniel's panicking. We're losing clients, making mistakes." I didn't expect it to go this far. "You underestimated consequences," I said quietly. "Patience, observation, deliberate action, they work faster than arrogance and carelessness." He swallowed. I understand. I'll try to manage." "Good," I said. "It's about learning. Not interfering with my moves." Emily lingered nearby, watching silently. "Alex. I wish I'd paid more attention to you. I see now. You've changed everything quietly, deliberately." "Exactly," I said softly. "I didn't need recognition. I didn't need confrontation. I just needed patience. And the willingness to wait until it was time to act." Her lips pressed together. "It's impressive. Scary. I didn't think you had this in you." "I've always had it," I said. "I just wasn't allowed to show it." The next day, I arrived at Daniel's office with a subtle confidence I hadn't felt before. He glanced at me, clearly uneasy. Mark's hands shook as he shuffled papers. Emily's gaze lingered for a moment, hesitant. I could feel it in the air the moment I stepped into the office. The balance had shifted. Daniel's once unshakable confidence was fractured, and Mark's hesitations were louder than any words. Emily's eyes followed me for longer than necessary, the awareness of my quiet influence clear in her expression. I walked past Daniel's desk, nodding politely. "Morning, Daniel," I said lightly. He glanced up, surprise flickering across his face. "Alex, you're early." "Thought I'd check in," I replied, casual, calm. "See how the team is managing recent client feedback." Daniel hesitated, then said, We're handling it. Everything is under control." I arched an eyebrow. "Under control?" I asked softly. "Some of the numbers I've seen, they suggest otherwise." His fingers twitched on the edge of his desk. "Well, yes, there are minor issues, but nothing critical." I let silence stretch. "Just long enough." He fidgeted. Glanced at Mark, who couldn't meet my eyes. I didn't have to say more. The cracks were visible, undeniable. Later, in a conference room with Mark and Emily, I subtly guided the discussion. "I noticed some discrepancies in the report projections," I said casually. "Perhaps they're minor, but a small gap now could become a larger problem later." Mark stumbled over his words. We're already addressing those." "I mean..." Emily cleared her throat. "Alex, you're right. There are some inconsistencies we overlooked." I nodded, letting them stew in the quiet. "Good. I just want to make sure everything is accounted for before it escalates." After the meeting, Emily pulled me aside. "Alex, I've never seen you like this. You've changed. You're calm, deliberate, powerful." "Powerful?" I asked softly, almost amused. "No, Emily. I'm prepared. Patient. Observant. That's enough to influence outcomes quietly." She frowned. I underestimated you. I didn't realize how capable you were. I wish I had noticed sooner." "Then don't dwell on it," I said gently. "It's not about recognition. It's about control. My control, my decisions. That's what matters." That night, I met with Lucas and Nina to review recent developments. "Daniel's slipping faster than anticipated," Nina said, sliding a folder across the table. "He's defensive, reactive, and increasingly reliant on Mark. Every step you've taken has amplified his weaknesses." Lucas nodded. "And Mark, he's tense, hesitant, trying to anticipate your next move. But he's still too slow. They're reacting, not acting." "Exactly," I said, a small smile tugging at my lips. "I don't need to push. I just need to observe, guide subtly, and let consequences unfold." "Patience," Nina said. "This is the moment where the tables truly begin to turn." I leaned back, savoring the thought. Months ago, I had been invisible, overlooked, taken for granted. Daniel's charm had masked arrogance. Mark's friendship had been silent, complicit. Emily's kindness had been warm but blind. Now, they were all exposed to the consequences of ignoring me. The following day, I returned to Daniel's office, casually dropping by to discuss a minor project. He greeted me stiffly. "Alex, good to see you." "Good morning, Daniel," I said. I wanted to review a few small points in the latest client report. Nothing urgent, just oversight. His fingers tapped nervously on the desk. Of course, yes, oversight. Let's see, I listened carefully, asking casual, precise questions. Every question highlighted gaps he hadn't noticed, without me ever accusing or criticizing. The tension built naturally, leaving him to flounder while I observed in silence. Mark chimed in awkwardly, trying to cover mistakes, but only emphasized the issues further. I left after 20 minutes, letting the subtle chaos settle. The room had shifted, without confrontation, without drama, just quiet influence. That evening, Emily called. Alex. I've been thinking. You've changed everything. Daniel. Mark, even me. I didn't expect you to take control like this. I didn't expect it either, I admitted. But once I realized I had nothing to lose, and everything to gain, patience and observation became my weapons. You're scary, she whispered. I can see why they didn't notice before. You were silent, but always calculating. Exactly, I said. And now, everything is changing, inevitably. The next week, I attended a small client briefing. Daniel presented, trying to maintain composure, but subtle errors crept in, mispronunciations, skipped points, faltering answers. Mark's nervous glances betrayed him further. I said nothing, simply observed. And as the clients questioned inconsistencies, I felt a quiet satisfaction. The shift was real, undeniable, and entirely invisible to them. Afterward, I met Lucas and Nina. Daniel's mistakes are becoming obvious, I said. He's losing confidence. Mark's panicked. Emily, she's aware but powerless. Exactly, Lucas said. You've influenced outcomes without lifting a finger. They're unraveling themselves. Nina smiled faintly. This is when the tables begin to turn. They no longer hold power over you. They're reacting to your influence, not dictating your actions. I leaned back, letting the satisfaction settle. The months of betrayal, the stolen ideas, the ignored efforts, all of it had led to this moment. And yet, I was calm. Deliberate. Patient. I called Sarah that evening. It's working, I said quietly. Daniel's faltering. Mark's uncertain. Emily, she finally sees. The tables are turning exactly as planned. That's good, Alex, she said softly. But don't let it consume you. Power is delicate. Control is fragile. Stay deliberate. I know, I said. I'm careful. Every move is calculated. Every observation, every pause, every subtle intervention, it's mine to guide. A few days later, I returned to Daniel's office for a routine check-in. He greeted me stiffly, his forced smile hiding visible tension. Alex, good to see you. Good morning, I said lightly. I thought I'd review some minor client concerns. Daniel hesitated. Yes, minor. Of course. I asked my questions, measured and precise. I let silence do the work, forcing him to reveal gaps and inconsistencies. Mark attempted to assist, but only highlighted the flaws further. Daniel's discomfort grew visibly. I watched quietly as the consequences of their arrogance and carelessness began to crash down. Daniel's confidence had completely crumbled. Mark was stumbling over every decision, every word. And Emily, she was finally seeing the truth, though she was powerless to stop it. I arrived at Daniel's office just as a client called to complain. I lingered outside, listening carefully. His voice wavered. I understand, sir. We'll fix this immediately. Mark jumped in, nervous. Yes, we'll make adjustments right away. I smiled faintly, stepping inside. Morning, Daniel. I hear there's been a minor issue with the client report? Daniel looked up, startled. Yes, Alex. Just a small mistake. We're working on it. Minor mistakes have a way of growing, I said quietly. Especially when left unchecked. Daniel swallowed hard. Yes. I'll make sure it's addressed. I nodded, letting the silence stretch. Good. I just want to ensure everything is properly accounted for. Oversights can be costly. Mark shifted, avoiding my eyes. We're on top of it. Definitely. Emily appeared in the doorway, her expression tense. Alex. I didn't realize the extent. I see now, you were right to be cautious. I smiled faintly. Observation and patience can prevent disasters before they happen. You just have to notice them. Her lips pressed together. I should have noticed sooner. I should have. I don't know, listened. Don't dwell on it, I said softly. What matters now is understanding, learning. And they're doing just that. I left Daniel's office and met Lucas and Nina in a quiet cafe later that afternoon. The fall is accelerating, Lucas said, sliding a report across the table. Daniel's mistakes are piling up. Mark's uncertainty is obvious. Even the clients are questioning decisions. I scanned the report. Exactly as planned. Their confidence is gone. Every misstep is amplified by their own hesitation. They're unraveling themselves. Nina nodded. Patience, subtle intervention, silence, they can't anticipate you. They're caught in the consequences of their arrogance, and you're just observing. I leaned back, a quiet thrill in my chest. They underestimated me for too long. And now, the tables have turned completely. The next morning, I walked past Daniel's desk. His expression was tight, forced. He tried to smile, but his eyes betrayed worry. Alex, good to see you. Good morning, I said lightly. I wanted to check in on the client feedback. Everything resolved? He hesitated. We're working on it. Yes. I raised an eyebrow. Working on it? I asked softly. I've noticed a few lingering issues. Small, but persistent. Daniel fidgeted. Yes, they're being addressed. Mark cleared his throat nervously. We're trying our best. Good, I said calmly. It's important to address problems before they escalate. I'd hate for minor oversights to become major consequences. The room fell silent. I let them stew in it, observing as their anxiety built naturally. Daniel's shoulders slumped slightly. Mark's hands shook. Emily's gaze lingered, awareness dawning. That evening, I received a message from Emily. Alex. I've never seen you like this. You've taken control quietly, deliberately. It's impressive. I typed back slowly, it's not about being impressive. It's about being deliberate. And the consequences are unavoidable when ignored for too long. No response. She didn't need to reply. She understood. The following week, Daniel's company faced its first serious client loss. I stayed on the sidelines, letting the chaos unfold naturally. I didn't gloat. I observed. I noted reactions. The panic in Daniel's voice, the hesitation in Mark's. Every misstep, every faltering explanation, every defensive gesture, proof that invisibility had been my greatest weapon. Emily approached me quietly. Alex, they're falling apart. Daniel. Mark, even I can't stop it. How did you? I observed, I said calmly. I waited. I acted subtly. And now, the consequences are unfolding naturally. Nothing I've done is loud. Everything is deliberate. And they are facing the results of their own actions. Her eyes widened. It's like you've been playing chess, and we've been blind. Exactly, I said softly. They ignored me, underestimated me, stole my ideas. Now, they're learning the cost. Lucas called that night. Alex, the fall is accelerating. Daniel's confidence is shattered. Mark's hesitation is paralyzing. Even the clients are starting to doubt. You've done nothing overt, yet everything is unraveling around them. I leaned back in my chair, letting the satisfaction settle. Patience. Observation. Quiet influence. That's enough to turn tables without confrontation. A few days later, I attended a high-level meeting. Daniel's presentation faltered. He mispronounced key terms, overlooked critical points, and stammered through explanations. Mark attempted corrections but only highlighted more gaps. Emily watched silently, a mixture of awe and regret in her expression. I asked subtle questions, framed casually, letting silence amplify the tension. Each question forced Daniel to reveal his mismanagement. Each pause allowed Mark's uncertainty to show. Emily's gaze followed me, realization dawning that I had orchestrated everything quietly, invisibly. Afterward, Lucas and Nina met me for a strategy review. The betrayers are facing consequences, Lucas said. Everything is playing out exactly as we predicted. And you've remained invisible, deliberate, untouchable. I nodded, feeling a quiet thrill. They underestimated me for too long. Their fall isn't revenge, it's natural consequence. And patience made it inevitable. Nina smiled faintly. Exactly. Karma doesn't need force. It just needs deliberate guidance. And you've provided it flawlessly. I walked home that evening, thinking of the months that had led here. Betrayal. Silence. Observation. Patience. And now, consequences. Daniel, Mark, Emily, they had all underestimated me. Ignored me. Treated me as invisible. And now, they were paying the price. I whispered to myself, smiling faintly, they thought ignoring me meant nothing. But nothing is the most powerful weapon of all when wielded deliberately.